All right, very good. Thank you.
All right, hello. Welcome to the City of Salem's Human Rights Commission. My name is Angelo Arredondo, and I'm the chair of the commission. I'm a resident of Ward 2, and I go by he, him, his pronouns. And then we can just go ahead and popcorn style, and I'll go ahead and go with Mike. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mike.
Hi, my name is Mike Waters. I'm a resident of Ward 7, and I use they, them pronouns. And I will pass it to Krista.
Hi, my name is Krista Gallagher. I'm part of Ward 4, and I use she, her pronouns. Next, I'll go to Renee.
Hi, everyone. My name is Renee. I am a member of Ward 8. I live in Ward 8. The pronouns I use are she, her, and I will go to Tricarico.
Hi, I'm Tricarico. I'm a resident of Ward 2. I use they, them pronouns, and I will pass to Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Das. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a resident of Ward 2. And I will pass it on to Nathan.
I am Nathan. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a resident of Ward 7. Oh, and I'll pass it on to, has Jules gone? I'll pass it on to Jules.
Hi, my name is Jules. I'm a resident.
Jules, I'm sorry, we're unable to hear you. I think the connection froze up. Hoping we'll reconnect soon. In the meantime, let's see. Abigail, can we welcome you and invite you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Abigail. I believe I'm in Ward 7. I want to say that's it. And then what else was I supposed to say? Just to pass it on to the next person?
Yeah, and we also share the pronouns that we use for ourselves as well to help clarify that.
So my pronouns are she, her, they, them.
Very good, thank you. And yeah, if you want to pass it to someone else, it's getting harder though at the end.
Has Debbie gone yet? No? Okay, so I'll pass it on to Debbie.
I'm Debbie Aguilar. I'm a lieutenant with the Salem Police Department, and I am the liaison between the police department and the Human Rights Commission. And then let's see, so I see Kelsey on here. I'll pass it to her. Oh, and I use she, her pronouns.
Kelsey, we're unable to hear you. Right now it shows that your microphone is on or off, or you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, that's so weird. Well, hi again. My name is Kelsey. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a resident of Ward 2. And I think, let's see, has Nathan gone yet?
I think Jolene might be a person who hasn't gone yet.
All right, Jolene.
Oh, forgive me. Jolene and Sarah are part of our interpretation team, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
perhaps that's everybody.
I think Jules is back.
Oh, good. Jules, we'd lost you before. Do you want to continue?
Yeah, sorry. My internet's being really weird right now. Okay, hi, my name is Jules. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a resident of Salem, Oregon. And nobody else is left, so yeah.
Welcome, very good.
Hey, Gretchen, have you introduced yourself?
Oh, I don't know. I'm Gretchen. I am staff here at the city, and she, her pronouns, and glad to be here. And I'll take the opportunity to give you one more announcement that I forgot to share, which is speaking of interpretation, it can be really helpful if you announce that you're going to speak before you jump in to help orient the view to you. So like I might say, this is Gretchen, and pause, and then share my comments. That'll help our interpretation team and Krista to have the information. Thank you.
All right, this is Angelo. We can move on to public comment. Gretchen, do you know if we have any public comment tonight?
I didn't receive any in written form. I don't know if any of the guests here tonight would like to share. This is an opportunity for about 3 minutes if there's anything you'd like to share or talk about to the commission.
I had an idea for something that we could do during Pride Month or something like that. So I'm not sure if any of you know about the Stonewall riots, but it's basically how the Pride Parade originated. And I was wondering if, like, I don't know if you guys would be the ones to do this, but there was a little, like, I had an idea about like doing a little kind of like a party, like not a party, but like just a little celebration of the Stonewall riots at Riverfront Park. It's a great venue, and like it will be public, and it's way cheaper to do it public than private. And like you don't have to host for all Salem. You would only, because only like at the most 50 people would show up. So like I was thinking it could be like a little light, cheap party, but also something to make LGBTQ people feel more accepted and recognized.
Yeah, thank you for that suggestion. And yeah, I really need, something I can say when we have public comment, because it's like, I just thank them and then that's it. And I feel like I'm leaving it like unanswered. So I gotta come up with something. But okay, we can move on to approval of agenda.
And if you like,
minutes.
I can interrupt really quickly and just add that, of course, if anyone has an idea for how to respond, that would be welcome. It can be hard to know right away what the next step might be for an idea, certainly. In this particular case, we're blessed to have a committee, a task force that focuses in the area, and perhaps the idea could be brought to the task force for further conversation. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we bring ideas for Pride Month to the LGBTQIA plus intersectional task force. And there we could have a discussion. We do have some things planned for the task force for 2021, but not like a full agenda, not a full plate. So it would be cool to bring new ideas to that task force. And I think we have room for members. For sure.
Go ahead, Jules.
Jules, can I add something real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, if you guys want like more details, then I'd be happy to share more. Like, maybe not right now, but I have an email if you guys want to like talk about it more.
Thank you. That would be great. Jules, I wonder if we could connect and I could get your email and invite you to the task force for some further discussion. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we can move on. Oh, Angela here. We can move on to the approval of agenda and approval of minutes. As always, if you guys are ready to approve those, make a motion, and then we can second and all that good stuff.
This is Mike, and I had a question actually on the minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not as much about the minutes, but I know that now that Gretchen is taking the minutes in a more summary format, one of the things I was wondering about was there was a lot of comments that were given to the folks that are doing the performance audit. And I wanted to see if there's a way for us to be able to either see the performance audits folks' notes or just to validate the community concerns that came out in our last HRC meeting were somehow documented. Because with the summary notes, it really just says that we had a conversation. And I don't want to create a burden for Gretchen, but I just wondered if there was a record of that somehow that we could get.
Thank you for asking. I can certainly reach out to the audit team. I know they were taking a lot of notes during the conversation and find out what they might have that would be a record that I can share back. We also fortunately have the YouTube recording in posterity. So if we find somehow we need a referral to get back to, we can utilize that as a document. So let me see what I can find.
Any other questions regarding the agenda and/or minutes?
This is Mike again, and since I created that interruption, I thought I should just close it up with moving that we approve the agenda and minutes. If anyone wants to second.
I can second. This is Renee.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, we passed the agenda and minutes. Okay, we can move on to action and our discussion items, and then bias crime update. I think that's Lieutenant Debbie.
Yes. We had one bias crime that was reported last month, or it was actually reported on November 10th, which was 2 days before our meeting, but it didn't get to my desk until after our meeting. So this was a bias crime that happened in Southeast Salem, where an unsuspect entered the victim's apartment, stole property within the apartment, and then damaged the inside of the apartment, leaving homophobic graffiti on the walls and some of the other areas of the home. The victim believes that they may know, that the person who did it may know them, but they don't know an identity quite yet. We're still working on it. It sounded like there were some potential suspect leads, but there have been no arrests at this time. And that was the only bias crime or bias incident that was reported to the police. However, it sounds like one's going to be maybe coming in today if the person called the police department. They actually called my boss directly, who let me know about it. And that particular one is a bias crime that occurred in southeast Salem, where a pride flag was taken out of a yard, damaged, like torn up, and then replaced back in the yard. So that's not an official report because the person, as far as I know, they may have made the report, but I haven't gotten it yet. But that may be one that I'll be reporting on next month. But just so you know that sounds like that one came in today. And it didn't sound like there were suspects in that. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. There might be suspects in that one. So I'll hopefully have more to report on next month on that one. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And then Gretchen, complaints/concerns of discrimination.
This is Gretchen, and I actually didn't receive any in this report period.
Okay, thank you. Then we come on to agenda C, and that's chair and vice chair activity. And I think me and Krista said this was kind of open, so that if anybody had any questions about the chair and vice chair positions, that you can I'm all ears, and you can ask them.
I guess I have a question. Sorry, this is Renee. I'm wondering for either Angelo or Krista, just what are your reflections from the last year? It was definitely a challenging year with us having to switch to online and not being able to do as many or really any in-person events. So I guess I'm just curious on how you think the year went in your role as chair or vice chair.
Angela here. Krista, you want to go?
Sure, yeah. I was just thinking about this, and I did write some things down, but I'm happy to go ahead and share that now. I think we can all agree that 2020 brought up a lot of challenges and unexpected ways of doing things that impacted our work at the Human Rights Commission. We had a working plan, goals, and vision, and we were hoping to meet them in 2020, including town halls, more community engagement and outreach, and so on. Many of those things were paused when we learned how to shift to holding meetings remotely. While it certainly presented some challenges, I feel we have more or less adapted to our current reality. Hopefully. I'm now seeing how we may, in fact, make our meetings even more accessible to people who may not have always been able to attend in person, whether due to work or personal obligations or not being able to travel easily. So with this new perspective, I would like to begin again in 2021 with a reframing of how we will be engaging with our communities, increasing awareness of the work that we do, and inviting people to share with us how they would like to do this work in the community in Salem. There's so much potential here, including, but not limited to, having virtual town halls, listening sessions with various communities, inviting community members to speak, and having opportunities to all learn from each other. Whether we decide to have me as vice chair again or not, I'm fully committed to continuing and building on the work that we do. And I'm excited to see what 2021 brings for us all. Thank you all for all that you do for human rights. You are so very appreciated.
All right, thank you, Krista. I think I can go. I don't want to repeat, the same things that Krista said, but I think I feel the same way. We had all these plans, right? And then, we had to stop them and we had to adapt to this new format. And, in some ways, I think at first, when I was reflecting about this, I was like, did we do something wrong? Because we couldn't achieve what we wanted. But then I'm like, oh no, it's just because we couldn't. We had to adapt to this new format. And so I really want to focus on restructuring and how we can, move on with this digital world, this new digital age. Because as Krista said, I think it is possible and it's, more accessible to more people. And so I'm running for re-election again to be the chair. If I'm chosen or not, I will, as Krista said, I will keep engaging and yeah, I think just move forward. I'm excited to see what we can do with this new plan now that we will be ready for next year. Anybody have any more questions?
This is Mike. I don't have a question, but a comment that thank you, Angelo and Krista, for everything that you've done. It sounds like both of you might be considering continuing on, which is very exciting, and just many, many thanks for the work that you've done. I think that in this new format, we do have this opportunity to bring forward voices from the community in these meetings that are broadcast, and as well as opportunities to do more outreach virtually than we've done. I think we're going to continue to learn a lot more in 2021. So that's my comment. Sorry, it's not a very good question.
Angela here, no worries, Mike. And yeah, you reminded me. I want to thank all of you, because it's not just, I don't think it's just me and Krista, it's everybody. Without this incredible team, we couldn't, do what we do. So thank you for everything. And then, thank you for the outgoing commissioners. And then, welcome to the new commissioners as well. And then I know some of you guys are shy, but I think with our next activity, I really want you guys to talk. So if there's no more questions, I think we can move on to our next activity, which is the connectivity activity. No, we connect. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I think I want to introduce this. It's pretty open as well. It's let's see. You can either share about yourselves, maybe your goals and passions about human rights, why you do the work you do, and then your vision for the Salem community. What do you want the future to look like? And if everybody could share at least one thing, I'd really appreciate it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick on Mike for this one.
Because you knew I'd get the ball rolling, right? There's no shortage of words here. I went to college in Missouri, actually. So I grew up in the Seattle area, and then I went to college in Missouri. And while I was in Missouri, I was a queer rights activist, and Missouri was not a safe place to do that. And so for me, joining up with the Human Rights Commission was about recommitting to my activism in a city that I hope is just slightly safer than where I started doing this kind of work. Salem is safe, but it's not safe enough. I think that the non-discrimination survey the discrimination survey that we did earlier this year showed us that there is an awful lot of discrimination that's happening in our city that isn't getting reported to us at the Human Rights Commission, that they're not hearing about at the city of Salem, that they're not hearing about from the police. And so where my passion lies and what I'd like to see for Salem is that those stories get elevated to people who make decisions, so that the decision makers understand that there are two Salems. There is one Salem where people are treated with kindness and respect and treated fairly, and there's a great sense of community there. And then there's another side of Salem that is much darker, and that we as commissioners have to continue to work against. So anyway, those are my words. And do you want me to pass it popcorn style to somebody?
Yes, please.
All right, I'm gonna pass it to Renee because the connecting exercise was her idea.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for sharing your story. So this is actually my last meeting. This will be my completion of the 3-year term. And I would have liked to have stayed a little bit longer, but not the full 3 years. So hopefully I can still interact with this group, but not as much. And so that's why I didn't continue on. But I guess what I would share is the reason I joined the commission, and one thing that I think is really important to increasing our inclusion and acceptance within the community. And some of the more profound moments I've had with this group are when people share their stories. So just hearing about what's going well, what's not going well, whether that be from any of you, from our community members, from different groups that we've brought on to do studies or to do research, hearing how it's going, what's happening, where could we help, or what are the problems that people are facing. I think having that understanding from one another and increasing those interactions are really what helps us to do better and to make those changes that we want to see. It's hard to understand what's really going on if we're not hearing from one another and getting to know one another better. So I would say just continuing to do that. I think as a group, we can work better together if we understand each other and understand where we're coming from and what we're going through. And so I just want to thank everyone for the stories they've shared and really take those to heart when we do have community members come to share, because I think that's what we're trying to promote. We want more people to share their stories. So when they do come to us, we really want to have that that listening ear so that they feel welcome and they feel more empowered to continue to share their story, and we can connect that way. So yeah, that's what I would say. I guess I'll pass it on to Krista.
Thank you. Hold on just a second for the interpreter. There's a little bit of a lag here. Really my passion in life, Krista said, has been a really important part of my life. My core values is, being involved, and I've been doing this kind of work for several years now in Salem, and including setting up a nonprofit organization for deaf education. These days, I'm focused a lot more on working on relationships, making sure that people are connected with each other and that they have equity and access. I really want everything to be fully accessible for everyone. For our work on Human Rights Commission, one of the things I really like to do, I would really want to see more variety in terms of disability community and people who are involved here. Giving them an opportunity to see how we can improve their quality of life in Salem. Oh, and next to Angelo. Sorry, there was some.
Yes, thank you. Angelo here. I think, as people have said, I grew up and didn't really think Salem was. I always thought Salem was like this good place. Not that it's not, but as Mike said, there's always two Salems: the good Salem and the bad Salem. And I think it really opened my eyes once I was like, let's say 13, 14, and somebody was discriminating against my mother because she's Hispanic. She doesn't speak English well, and you know how people are. You don't speak English. Get out of the country, all that. And so, and that was the moment when I realized, this isn't okay. We got to change things. Why are people so hateful against others? It's like we're all the same. I never got that. And so, and also coming from a school where the majority were the students of color, and students of color. And so I wanted to change. I realized that the only way we can change is policy. The majority of policies are not in favor of minorities, if that's the good, if I can phrase it that way. And I think if we change, we can change policy. And I really believe in youth outreach, because again, I only joined this commission because I wanted to do something. Like, nobody told me about it. I didn't even know it existed. I just looked it up It's like, hey, how can I, volunteer for the city of Salem? And then I applied, and that's why I'm here. And so I really believe in youth outreach because I really do think that the youth, is the future. And I think I'll end it there. And speaking of youth, I'll pass it to Nathan because he's done some great things. He's been doing some great things as the president of my old high school. So go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, yeah. So I guess one thing about Salem I'd say is inclusivity. I know our population, I think we're at like 170 right now. Excuse me. So I think when we hit 200,000 people, I hope we have a greater demographic growth in the city that makes the city a bit more inclusive and diverse. Yeah. Oh, and I have to pass it on. I will pass it on to Alex.
This is Alex, and like Renee, today is my last meeting as well. So it's exciting. I think I've done one full term and one partial term. So it's been great. I moved to Salem 7 years ago, straight from India. So for a new immigrant, this whole experience was wonderful, and the Human Rights Commission kind of opened my eyes to the community, to more than just me. So I'm grateful for that. I've loved everything that we've done. And something I'd like for this group to do going forward is as Renee again said, it's so difficult sharing stories, and we give so many people the opportunity to share stories with us. But I wish there was a better way for us to follow up on those stories, like when we have people come and make public comments. And how do we get back in touch with them, kind of close the loop and make sure that they're okay and they did feel heard? I think that would be something great. I also love the new equity work group that we have. I think that's great work. And I'm happy to keep supporting in whatever way I can. And I will pass it on to Lieutenant Aguilar.
Boy, I didn't have anything prepared. So let's see. Well, so I'm just beginning my 20th year in law enforcement. And so things have really changed from when I started to now. I mean, I grew up in a small town, so coming to a small town that was very, very, very white. And so coming to Salem, it was great to see the diversity and the different cultures. I spent some time living in Mexico, and my family background's pretty diverse. And so when I got into law enforcement and promoted to lieutenant and had the opportunity to be invited to be the liaison with the Human Rights Commission, I thought this was a good opportunity for me because I'm very much a person that I think if we can make a connection in a personal connection where as police officers we get to know the community and you get to know us as people, that really can start to hopefully to build a bridge and mend those connections and create those connections and start to really improve those relations and make Salem the great place that it is to live. And so I really appreciate allowing the commission to let me come every month. And as hard as it is to hear sometimes some of the things, I think it's really good for me because then I can bring it back to the police department and make sure people understand what the community is thinking and feeling, because it's important for them to understand as well. And I think we grow from that, and because there is that hunger for knowledge within the police department of what can we do, like what can we do really, and we want to be in the community, we want to start building those connections. So I think my goal for moving on is figuring out how we do that. How do I do that? I struggle with that question right now. I know there's a sense that the community doesn't trust the police or want the police involved, but what can I do to make it so we can start those conversations? So that's really my goal, I think, for this next year, is to, and hopefully with the Human Rights Commission's help, is help me understand what I can do to help start those conversations and get us moving in the right direction. So that's that. Oh, and I gotta pick someone, sorry. Let's do Tricarico.
Thanks, Lieutenant Aguilar. I got involved in the Human Rights Commission because shortly after I moved to Salem, I had my first public, at the time, same gender relationship. And it was really an interesting experience. And when I saw that there was the LGBTQ task force putting out a survey about discrimination that those of us in the community had experienced, I was really inspired that, wow, okay, there's people in Salem, in the community and at the city, who actually care about what's going on in the community. And then met everyone and decided to join. And it's been a really, really awesome process. I'm really grateful for the experience. As far as goals for the commission, I echo a lot of the sentiments that people have said here about reaching out, about connecting more, about improving accessibility so that more people can be involved in what we do. As well as I would like to think more strategically about how we can leverage our relationship with the city to really make those changes. Especially when someone comes to us with an issue, like Angelo said so well, it feels like someone comes to us with an issue and we're like, cool, we hear you, and then what do we do next? And so I really like that idea of figuring out a better response in the moment, as well as moving forward what we do with that. Because I really do want to see more people involved. I want them to feel like we are here for them and we're going to do something, and it's going to go further than just their comment at a meeting. Even if it's not something we can directly do, we can connect them to that next step. So I'm actually really excited to see what opportunities we have now that we've learned how to do virtual stuff so well. We have a lot of opportunities to reach out to more folks and connect with more folks in the community. So I'm really excited, and I'm sad that some of you are leaving. Those of you that are leaving, you're going to be very missed. And I hope that you will come back and keep working with us, because your voices have been really important as we keep working. I think that's everybody. Abigail, would you like to go? We'd love to hear from you since you're new.
Yeah, hi, I'm Abigail. Very excited to join. I am very passionate about volunteering. One of the big things that I feel like Salem has had an ongoing issue with is homelessness. And I feel personally that homelessness is a topic and a population that isn't really looked at as much, and it's just kind of swept under the rug, when homelessness is a human rights issue, very much. We don't have enough resources to give them to be able to have an adequate living. We don't hear much about them, is my understanding, about the struggles that they're dealing with. I remember being in high school and seeing, my peers go and make fun of the homelessness and not understand that there's underlying issues that they're dealing with and resources that are limiting towards them. And it was honestly really sad. I've worked with Arches Project and Home Youth Services, which helps children who are at-risk runaways or currently homeless between the ages of 12 and up to 18, if they're still students in high school or getting their GED. I feel like that was one of the reasons why I wanted to join the committee, was so that we can get that more heard and we can get more insight of individuals who are possibly dealing with homelessness and how we can tackle that on. And being a part of the city of Salem, the Human Rights Committee, I feel like maybe it'll get more publicly known, because there's just, like I said, not enough resources. I know I'm repeating that over and over again, but it's just the truth. I know that Portland has done a little bit of different things in the past, declaring as a state of emergency so that they can get additional resources and help out their communities. I guess we're just going into the winter season, so the colder season. So that's just a stressor for me, because I know there's only a certain amount of shelters that are there and only very limited motels that are being used that the city has provided for them as well. And so, but yeah, if anybody else has any insight, I'm not sure if that's entirely things that we can discuss here, but since it is a human rights issue, I feel like it should be. I think that's everyone, though. I don't think I need to pass it on to anybody else.
Yes, thank you, Angela here. I'm going to put Gretchen on the spot because I think she's part of this team as well. So, Gretchen, I want to hear from you.
Thank you. And I don't mean to laugh. I was thinking, oh goodness, I also didn't prepare anything. And so I thought, goodness, I wonder, but I was just enjoying listening to everybody else. So, but spontaneously, there is so much to this topic, and it's hard to know how to have a couple of minutes of remarks, really. But I think in a very short summary, I am just craving understanding exactly where breakdowns are occurring as we work on equity and justice, and then wanting to take those breakdown spaces and really break them apart and look for what are the concrete steps that we can take, you know, as a city, as a community, as a region, as individuals, to start solving. You know, the word precision keeps coming back to me, and the word, precision. It's like, sometimes it feels very large, and I'd like to break it into parts that lend themselves to discovering really actionable steps. So I've been thinking about that lately. I think as the ginormousness of the subject and the realities of some of the challenges sink in for me. Really excited to, I love the moments like that Renee said about, you know, when folks talk about what matters to them. I'm really interested in understanding each of you and your hopes and goals, so that I might think about how to best support the progress and look for opportunities or structures or tools that can help us meet our needs. And, you know, we used to, in the olden days of the commission, we used to recognize the other tables where issues of homelessness were getting discussed, and we were always cautious to not duplicate those other tables. Pivoting to that subject really quickly, but I was really lucky in March to be assigned work in the area of working with and supporting our unsheltered neighbors and being a liaison within the city for the subject. So I've been able to learn quite a bit and begin to interact with many of the partners and the topics that surround that. And so I believe I'm more prepared this year if the Human Rights Commission looks at the topic of homelessness. I think I'll be in a better position to help do that in the context of our region and our collaboration. So I'm excited about that. Most of all, kind of like what Debbie said, I'm just really hungry to understand the concrete opportunities for moving the needle on progress. I care a lot about justice and want Salem to be equitable for each person who's here. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how to do that with everybody that we get to interact with.
Angela here. Thank you, Gretchen, and thank you everybody for sharing. I like when everybody shares their ideas. I think when everybody shares their ideas, we just come up with more ideas because it's like, hey, I've heard what this person said. Oh, that's a good idea. And then, other ideas brew. So I think it's, good that we can hear from everybody. And now, hopefully, we can hear from more people because it's not part of the agenda, but I want to hear about our retreat that we have every year. Our retreat is when we, come up with our plans for the commission for the year. And so now it's going to be virtual. So I want to know, how do people think we can pull that off? Because usually we sit in a room with a whiteboard and just write down ideas. It's like we can't really do that this year. So does anybody else have any ways we could do our retreat this year?
This is Mike, and I don't know technically, the logistics of how we do the brainstorm and capture the brainstorm. I know from like being on endless Zoom meetings over the past however many months we've been doing it, that it might be a good idea to think of the retreat as a series, like a couple of meetings that are shorter, because I don't know about you guys, but after about an hour and a half on the Zoom, I'm done. Very done.
Andrew here. I think that's a good idea, but we'd have to like plan like ahead, like have everybody be like, can everybody make it to all these small meetings? Because we might not like bigger meetings. Like I don't like bigger meetings, but sometimes it's harder to keep people coming from different meetings. Like even if they're like all close together. So I think we can brainstorm, and that's another thing we can brainstorm is what date or dates we can have it, because we usually have it in January because that's obviously the start of the month of the year, and our next meeting is January 5th, right, Gretchen?
Yes. And speaking of our next meeting, you don't currently have any commitments on the calendar coming up for the meetings. It's not as though there's speakers lined out or commitments made. So that is one idea, would be to take digestible pieces and make that be the focal point of the next 2 or 3 meetings, if you'd like to.
Hi, this is Renee. Oh, this is Renee. One other suggestion, it would have to work out, but it might be helpful if you had like sometimes in bigger conferences, they have breakout sessions. So kind of on that idea, maybe having the group like have 2 days available. And so like half of whoever's available on whatever day, and it would be the same agenda and the same meeting basically, but to share ideas and maybe a smaller group, and then have a third meeting where everyone comes together and shares the ideas that they had. So I don't know if it would work out, but it's just another suggestion, another idea of maybe how to do what you're talking about, another option.
I might add, I think that would work. The thing that I don't know how to do is do the small group breakout while broadcasting and being accessible to YouTube. I could research that if you find you want to, but I haven't seen the city take a public meeting and break it into smaller parts and simultaneously broadcast all of those parts. I don't know technically how to do that. You could do, what I think I heard Renee say is maybe there's smaller meetings of smaller groups of people, and that's different because then everybody's in one Zoom. Like, see, we're all visible in the one Zoom. But I know sometimes I've participated in Zoom meetings where you get put into a small group for a moment, and I don't know how to do that and retain our accessibility. But you could have, for example, 4 or 5 of you meet, and then another 4 or 5 of you meet. Like we might be able to run something like that. I'd want to run it by the team and make sure we're following the rules. But yeah, that might be a possibility. if you think a smaller group would help facilitate more dialogue.
Angela here. Thank you. Does anybody else have any ideas? Krista, go ahead.
Krista here. I want to set up. I just cannot.
Where everyone can put their availability in, and then we can find a date that would work, because you can vote for what time you're available.
Thank you.
I think I maybe missed part of that. I think I heard to create a scheduling poll where we would learn availability of the members. Is that correct?
It's called a doodle.
Oh, yes.
Thing. It's
Thank you.
A doodle poll. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe we could first decide if we want to have just one upcoming meeting or several different shorter meetings. And then after we've decided that, we could go ahead and have the doodle poll sent out with a couple of dates.
This is Renee again. Gretchen, do you know if you're able to share a screen over these meetings? Because I know other Zoom meetings I've had where we were able to share a screen, we could have something similar to a whiteboard where our ideas are put on the screen for the group to see, and maybe you can categorize the ideas that way and say, here are some major issues we're seeing come up, or here's what we're hearing a lot of, things like that. But I don't know if we have that capability during this meeting.
Yes, I believe that I do. I'd probably play with the font to try to make it big if someone's watching and trying to read it. I'd need to get a little tips on how to do that, but I certainly can share my screen.
Okay. Angela here. Do we have any preferences? If we want to do multiple, one meeting, I want to hear your thoughts.
It might help to back up and clarify the objectives of the gathering. And maybe I'm stating the obvious, but traditionally or commonly, the group wants to kind of take stock of the strategies that you're wanting to continue, like some of the existing task force work. And you're also wanting to have the door open for additional ideas or strategies or emerging topics that you believe you want to tackle. Maybe like several of you mentioned, in this digital environment, how can we increase accessibility and hear more voices with this tool? So that might be a topic to take kind of early in the year and think through how to do that in a big way. So there might be the kind of mapping of what we're doing right now that we want to do. And then there might be the what else do we want to do? And then there's the step of sort of sifting or prioritizing, all the while keeping your eye on your capacity and how much everyone's able to do. You may also want to go in a different direction. Maybe you want to keep all of your current strategies and not really have that conversation, but you want to have a more strategic discussion about like your vision and what you're hoping to accomplish. Or maybe you want to use the time as a listening session to gather information from people or organizations or ideas. Or maybe it's a learning opportunity. So there's kind of different directions that you might opt to go in, and that might help you sort kind of how many meetings or help sort some of those logistical decisions.
I have an idea. The first idea is to capitalize on the meeting that we already have scheduled, because we do already have a meeting unscheduled. And maybe at that first scheduled meeting would be the time for idea generation, like looking at the things that we're currently doing and coming up with new ideas. And then perhaps we could do a second meeting where we would look at capacity priorities and the work plan. And that way we're not talking about like a series of like 8 meetings to try to figure out what we're going to do next year, but we're using a meeting that we already have existing for some of that, and then just sort of appending it with a second meeting. That's just one idea, but that when Gretchen was speaking, it seemed to me like our goal typically at that first meeting of the year is always around getting our work plan and getting us figure out what we're going to work on and in committees and so on.
Angela here. I like the idea, Mike. And I mean, does anybody else have any other ideas? If not, I think we can go with Mike's. Because Gretchen, correct me if I'm wrong, but we really don't have anything for this upcoming, right? We only have elections and then our usual items.
That's correct. So you should have some room in there.
Yeah, so I think that's a good. Oh, go ahead, Krista.
Krista here. I was just wondering if we want to have a January 5th meeting, if we want to plan the next meeting for 2 weeks after that, because I liked the idea that Mike had.
Yeah, Angela here. Yeah, if nobody has any, if nobody opposes, I think we can do that. We can, do something for a January 5th meeting, and then before that meeting, send a doodle poll, saying, what are your available dates for, would that be the 4th week of January or the 3rd week?
I was just looking at my calendar. It looks like 2 weeks later would be, for example, Tuesday, January 19th, Wednesday, January 20th, Thursday, January 21st, that zone. City Council meets on the 19th. So depending on what's on their agenda, I may or may not be able to be here. But for example, the 20th or 21st, I could send out a doodle poll. Is that kind of the week you have in mind?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Angel here. All right, sounds like we're gonna go ahead and with that plan. So our first meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Are we just brainstorming and like establishing what we want to keep and what we want to change, or what's your thinking?
Well, it was my idea. You guys are the better at planning, but my thought was, that we would look at the things we're currently doing, ask ourselves what should we be doing. Particularly, we know some of the issues that have come up in 2020 that we hadn't contemplated when we made our work plan for this year, and they were pretty significant issues that we needed to talk through and have plans for. So we could brainstorm around those kinds of issues, and then at the second meeting, prioritize and build the work plan. That was my idea, but I defer to our chair and vice chair.
Angel here. Yeah, Mike, it was a great idea. So I think we're going to go ahead and do that, because I think Krista agrees with me as well that it's a good idea. So I think just anticipate a doodle poll from Gretchen, just seeing what dates are available for you, and then we'll go from there on the retreat. So if there's no more questions on that, I think we can move on to our task force and project updates. And since Mike, you're on the roll, let's go ahead and do awareness.
Oh my gosh, so much talking tonight. At the awareness task force, we talked about a few things. One is that we have a video that's in the hopper, a person telling a story about how they experienced discrimination and how the Human Rights Commission helped them. And I don't think we're at script completed with that, Gretchen, right?
We have a script, and I'm talking with a person about taping logistics now.
Excellent. So we even have a script. The second item from awareness that we talked about was the HRC 101 outreach meetings. And Gretchen has put together an invitation and a wonderful flow for how those meetings can go. And so I think it's just a matter of getting them on the schedule and getting those invitations out to our community partners for those. Angelo and Krista, the meetings would rely heavily on you. However, Gretchen wrote them in such a way that any commissioner could kind of fill in if you weren't available for one of those HRC 101 meetings. We would be targeting those meetings toward community organizations that deal with a lot of the issues that we deal with at HRC. So it's really about that outreach and partnering, and kind of viewed as a little bit of a, not a replacement, but an augment to the liaison program that we've worked on over the years. We also talked in awareness group about the next survey. So, we had a survey at the beginning of 2020, and we published those results, and we had some media around those results, and the city helped spread the word about those results as well. We'd like to replicate that survey. We talked about some of the things that we would do differently and better for another survey. We talked about particularly needs around translation, needs around serving the unsheltered community and making sure that they have an accessible survey, needs around making the survey at an appropriate grade level, because we think that some of the questions may have been at an inappropriate grade level for some of the audiences taking the survey. Taking all of that feedback in, we would want to meet with a partner to conduct the next survey. We've had some challenges in reaching our student partners, our professor who helped us with the last survey, but we're going to kind of continue to reach out and see if that professor and her students aren't available, maybe there's another group of students that could work on a survey with us. So we're just kind of continuing to plod along with that and noting the things that we learned from the first survey. And I think that was everything for awareness. Did anyone have any question? Oh, one last thing, sorry, which was that as we are doing these HRC 101 outreaches, we're also thinking about how we do better email outreach overall. So this is sort of our first time doing outreach out to our communities, but our desire is to have more email outreach and hopefully a couple of newsletters next year that talk about the things that the Human Rights Commission is doing. Any questions?
Yeah, Angelo here. Mike, I'm interested how those meetings would go. Like, if I'm elected the chair, how would I direct those meetings? Or, how would Krista direct those meetings?
There's a flow that Gretchen put together that actually has bullet points of things that you can talk about, the purpose of the commission, the ways that community organizations can help raise issues of discrimination with the commission. Sort of an introduction to Gretchen's role is in there. So Gretchen has a part in the run of show as well. Our committee really liked the run of show that Gretchen provided. And so I think the next step for it would be for you, Angelo and Krista, to kind of validate that you were comfortable with that approach. But the awareness group, we really liked the approach that Gretchen had, and it was really, really appreciated, Gretchen. Oh, it also had time for questions, which, you don't want to over plan an event like that because you want to give people an opportunity to ask their questions.
All right, thank you, Mike. We can move on to core response. That is myself. I don't have any updates. I think right now it's more of the background, inner workings of that. If I'm correct, Gretchen, we're just, kind of working in the background of that. So I don't really have any updates for that this month. And then equity lenses / chapter 97, Tricarica.
Yeah, Tricarico here. So we are getting to the point where we're getting everything together. So Dr. Brown has been super awesome. He got us started with a glossary of terms. And what we're asking those who are involved with this to do is to put their definitions of some of the terms in there. So there might be things like racism, discrimination, right? Like we all know what they mean, but sometimes we have our own interpretations. So we're going to put those in there, and then he's going to finalize that for us. And then we're also going to be putting together a list of questions. And these are the questions that we would want the city to use when they're doing an equity lens or using their equity lens, right? Like what are the things they need to consider when they're doing a project for the city, when they're entering into a contract, when they're proposing a new idea? Because we also want this equity lens to be tailored to Salem, right? Because some of the examples we saw were really great, but they might be, tailored to a university environment or tailored to that specific city. So our deadline is December 11th to get those questions in and get that finalized. And that way we'll have something to share with all of you in January, as well as present something with the entire HRC's blessing to the city, because January is when they will be starting their strategic plan for the year. And we'd really like this new equity lens to be a part of that. So that's where we're at. If you're on the equity lens work group, or if you want to contribute questions, I would absolutely welcome them. Please be sure that you respond to Gretchen or Dr. Irving by the 11th so that we can get that all together, and that will give us time to work on the final document to give to all of you in January.
All right, thank you, Tricarico. And yeah, if you have any feedback on that, make sure to share that feedback before December 11th. All right, Mike, back to you. LGBTQIA Intersectional Rights Task Force.
At the LGBTQIA plus Intersectional Rights Task Force, I just love saying the name of the task force because I think it's incredible how inclusive the group of people have chosen to be, even with our task force name. We did a little debrief on the Trans Day of Remembrance. That was on November 17th, and or maybe it was the 20th, but anyway, it was in November, and it was our first time doing it as a virtual event, and so we learned some things. We dearly hope that we do not have to do it as a virtual event next year, but we just don't know what 2021 has in store. So if we need to do the event that way, we will have a lot of things that we learned to be able to make it better. In addition, we also felt that regardless of whether we're able to do an in-person event or a virtual event next year, that we need to make the virtual option available From an accessibility perspective, if someone is not able to get out of their home, we really want them to be able to view that powerful event. It was quite moving to hear the two speakers that we had from the community, as well as just the sobering reading of the names that just reminds you of how much work we have to do to protect the trans people in our community. Also at LGBTQIA+ intersectional, we have started working on what we're calling our Salem Safe Spaces project. We got some wonderful resources from Lieutenant Aguilar about a project that was in Seattle. And we really, the project in Seattle is very driven by police, and its goal is really around working with businesses to make sure that they're reporting hate crimes. And our group kind of took that and felt that it should be a little bit more expansive, that what we would like to see out of a Safe Spaces project is for businesses to essentially sign a pledge that describes a series of behaviors and actions that we want businesses to take to show that they are inclusive, not just reporting hate crimes, but also being a business that respects people's pronouns, being a business that is inclusive of different abilities, and allows people into their and welcomes people into their space regardless of their different abilities and characteristics. That sort of thing could go on for a while, but our goal is by our next LGBTQIA+ intersectional task force to have a draft. We did some brainstorming at this meeting, and our goal would be to have a draft of what that pledge might look like, discuss it as a task force, and then bring it back to Human Rights Commission in our January meeting. So we would love to see that move forward in 2021. Other than that, I think for LGBTQIA intersectional, at our next meeting, we'll probably just start talking a little bit about 2021 and what our plans are for involvement. This group has typically done things like tabling Pride. Would love to hear Jules' idea come back, and really talking about what else we might be thinking about doing during Pride. Anyway, that's, yeah, that was our task force meeting this month. It was really nice. Any questions? Jules.
Hi, this is Jules. So I was just wondering, you mentioned a pledge that the businesses were going to sign, right? Is there any way, like, I think it's a great idea, but is there any way that you're gonna like keep in check with them and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We talked about that at some length, because to do a project like this, you are requiring the businesses to be a bit on the honor system, right? You're asking them to make this pledge and to abide by it. And what we felt as a group is that it would probably be very difficult for the program and for the HRC to try to take any kind of enforcement role on the pledge. You know, we can't go from door to door and business to business checking to make sure that they are following everything that's on the pledge. But what we can do is get the word out to our communities that there is this thing and that there is this pledge, and that if a business carries the sticker in their window and they violate the tenets of the pledge, that gives us a very good opportunity to have a conversation with them. And so we can talk to the business about what we expect from businesses that sign the pledge and what we would like them to do to welcome people into their business. You know, I think it does raise this kind of funny nagging question that I have, which is, do we withdraw their affiliation, as a safe space, if there's sort of a genuine disagreement, on that level. And I don't know that we totally work that out as a group. And I think it would be a discussion for our group to make sure that we sort of feel really solid in what our approach would be. But we also felt, and others from the task force can feel free to chime in. We also felt that most of the businesses that would choose this sticker are going to abide by the pledge because it's a source of pride for them. If you go into downtown Salem and you see businesses that proudly, fly a pride flag or have Black Lives Matter in their business window, these are businesses that want to be welcoming to our various communities in Salem. So I think that we don't want to make it so restrictive or difficult for a business to get a sticker that that they would question whether they're deserving of a sticker. So that's a very convoluted answer. I think we have a lot to work out as a team, but that's kind of where we left it at our last meeting.
This is Jules again. I really like that actually. I think it's a great way to like keep the business to their word, but also with the whole like honor system and the community building part of it too. I like that.
Thank you. Cool.
Angela here. All right. Thank you, Mike. Unsheltered neighbors, Krista.
Hi, Krista here. I don't really have any updates. We're looking a little bit more what's going on in 2021. And Gretchen, I don't know, do you want to add anything?
I'd be happy to answer questions if anyone has any questions. Lots is going on in this area for sure. One update that might be of interest is to go into a bit more detail. We were glad to have the Safe Sleep director, Linnell, attend the last awareness task force meeting and broke into a bit more detail some ideas around the approach for the survey to help be sure to get some input from people who are unsheltered. Another update might be that as I was working toward releasing our survey finally, and to be honest with you, I keep pausing just because I'm seeing how much everyone's doing, but I'm also aware that it's important to do it and just kind of in that tension. I was talking with some master's students at Willamette University and learned that they've been in a partnership with our regional Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance to conduct a survey around equity. They're leading with race and are looking at policy and wanting to understand the landscape in terms of the potential for discrimination and what policy there might need to be. And it sounded so very much like the intent of the survey that we had drafted. So I talked with them and we found ourselves wondering if the interests could be merged. And they were telling me how excited they were about the analytical opportunities that they have with some real superstar professors who are working with them to analyze the results. And so I thought that's pretty interesting. And so I sent them our survey that I was so close to releasing, the one that I'd shared already with the nonprofits. And so I'm interested to hear back from them on how it matches and to see their tool. And I thought I could bring their tool back to you all and see if there's a potential here for a collaboration. I'd hate to kind of sort of duplicate that effort and, kind of double survey on something pretty similar. So I'm curious if there's an opportunity for a collaboration.
This is Renee. I just thought of something. We participated in that survey that we brought to unsheltered individuals this year, and I remember talking about some of the lessons learned. So I don't know if that might be helpful for Willamette or if they've done this survey over the years, so they have a pretty good idea already, but that might be one area that we could learn from one another.
That's a good point. I'll share those lessons from the input with the team. That's a great point.
All right. If nobody else has anything for that section, we can move on to youth outreach. Nathan.
Yeah, actually, so youth outreach wise, I mean, I haven't really been up to anything. I haven't gotten any of Gretchen's emails until very recently. So, you know, I would say outreach wise, you know, we haven't been physically in school since March. So we're nearing a year now, I'd say, in maybe 3 months, which is kind of mind boggling. But it's, you know, like nothing's really changed. I mean, most people are still talking about, I would say, the Black Lives Matter movement, mostly online. That's a lot of where the youth has been. I've been working with the ASB office at South. We're trying to do a bunch of volunteering stuff out in the Santiam Canyon, which isn't necessarily Salem-wise, but it's more community-wise. And oh yeah, one thing, we're trying to fix a thing with the dead names on our Google accounts and Zoom accounts at the school. So we've been trying to work on that. So I don't know if that would be something you guys would like to hear about or not, but we're trying to work on getting that taken care of. Because right now, whenever you join a class, it shows if you're transgender, it shows your dead name on there, which I've heard can be kind of traumatic for those who are transgender. So we're working on trying to fix that. I see Jules has her hands up.
Hi, this is Jules. I had a suggestion for the dead name remover thing. There's actually a really great website that I found a couple years back. It's actually called Dead Name Remover, and it's actually really awesome. It can remove names like on anything, on Gmail, on any Google sites you go on Zoom, on anything. I've started using it and it's amazing.
Yeah, the thing we're having with that is so those sites, as I understand it, they go into the HTML kind of background code of the website. And I think it's just like a find and replace program where it finds the dead name and then replaces it, but it doesn't actually, so you get it on the client end. So if I were to change my name and use the program on here, it would show it all. But the teacher still sees the dead name on there, which would basically mean that, you know, if they would call on your name and they didn't know you for say, they'd use your dead name. So, you know, that's just something we're trying to work on. But yeah.
Angela here. Nathan, are you guys working to be district-wide or no, just school-wise? What's the plan?
Oh goodness, it's definitely, you know, it's one of the harder challenges because you have to effectively get admin to change it or something, and they have to go through and try to look at their policy. So, you know, I'm sure you know the old librarian at South, Mr. Rick. he's really supportive with all of that. He's been helping us with that. So, I think we're going to try to just, let all the teachers know. Some are really supportive of it, but, some of the older teachers who, barely understand how to use Zoom, we're going to try to help them with that as well. So, working with the district, that would be a lot more, red tape, kind of screaming in an empty box or something, trying to get it done. So we're going to try to maybe fix it on the teacher side necessarily itself, and then maybe work with other ASB groups around the district to get that done.
This is Renee again. I just wanted to say that I think that the work you're doing is really great. And even if it only makes small changes at your local level, sometimes that's what has to happen to make the bigger changes. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. And also, this is another example of hearing people's stories and learning, because I've never heard of that and I didn't, just never occurred to me. So hearing that you're working on that and hearing what people are going through, that raises that awareness.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I didn't even really know it was a problem either. But one of my really, really good friends is transgender, and they explained it to me, and it was like, what? A complete eye opener to me, because I had, no idea that was a thing. So I kind of became, I was like, let's see what we can do, see if we can fix it. But, if you guys have any recommendations, maybe we could try to get the district to do something about that. That would actually be really big. That would be a cool human rights issue thing, because I know that the district has been pretty strict about that kind of stuff. They don't really allow kids to change their dead names. They basically are like, well, they have to get a legal change of name or something, which, can be a little bit difficult if you're like 13 or something, right? I don't know, but yeah, that might be something we could look into, but yeah.
Yeah, I would be wondering what support we could provide there, because while I understand there's policies in place, I also know that most workplaces will allow you to use a preferred name, whether you're trans or not. Like, for example, we have a lot of employees that go by their middle name, right? And in our online HR system, you can put what your preferred name is, and then that's the name that like your manager sees and stuff. So, if they need help with that, or they need someone to kind of sit down and explain it to them, because maybe like you, they didn't know it was a problem, I'd be happy to talk to someone about that, and kind of see if we can get a little more work there. So let us know if you need support in getting that further.
Angel here. Yeah, my support as well, Nathan. If you need anything, I think the commission's willing to help you out. And yeah, I do think it's possible. They do have policies, but it's possible in other, as Tricarigo said, in work environments. So why is it not possible in school? And so I think it really is an issue that can be solved. We might have to push some boulders, talk to some people, but it's possible, I think. So I think we give our full support. And then staff updates, Gretchen.
Yeah, this is Gretchen. Couple things are coming to mind to share, and one is you may be aware that we've got some transition on City Council. The December is the end for, and Councillor Kaiser had already needed to resign, but Councillor Kaiser has resigned just before the end of her term, and then Councillor Osick is ending his service, and Councillor Nanke is ending his service. I'm sorry. And so that's 3 councillors that are concluding service on City Council this month. And then, as you know, we've got 3 new that begin in January. Maybe I shouldn't try to say their names. I'm clearly goofing up names tonight. But we have a transition on city council occurring. So just wanted to make that note. And then also the city is experiencing the process of strategic plan clarifications. A lot of their recent meeting had gone into that kind of work at a work session, and that'll continue in January. So they're thinking through updates to the strategic plan and clarification of vision. And I'm certainly hearing themes of equity and inclusion in their discussions. And then I also just wanted to mention the equity work group is aware of it, but the first of their 2 learning opportunities occurs tomorrow night. Our city leadership team and then the mayor and members of city council will be going through 2 learning opportunity conversations with Dr. Johnny Lake. So that'll be great to hear and see some of the outcomes of those conversations. And then I know the city is looking forward to carrying forward some of the themes and conversations into the year, which is where the equity lens work plugs in, for example. Lastly, I think I did just want to take a moment and thank Alex and Renee. I just wanted to tell you I've appreciated your thoughtful contributions at the meetings as well as outside the meetings. I've enjoyed the opportunity to consult with you and learn from you, and just wanted to thank you for your service.
Thanks, Gretchen, and everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Gretchen, and everyone else. I've had a wonderful time on this commission and learned a lot from each of you.
You'll hear. Yeah, I also want to thank both of you, and hopefully, you guys don't disappear. If we need you, we can, because I think you guys both have really good ideas and really contribute. So, hope you pay us a visit sometime. And then Gretchen, community calendar.
So I was thinking about the calendar. As you know, when the pandemic started, and I kind of stopped creating the document, but I've been questioning that lately and wondering if that's really unfair. I mean, clearly events are continuing to happen both in person and remotely. And so I wanted to ask, have you missed it? Do you want it back, or have you not missed it? Is it not helpful? Because I can go back to doing it if it would be helpful. I wanted to ask everyone's feedback. Maybe like a thumbs up if you like it, and I can count the thumbs maybe. Okay. All right. I'm seeing some thumbs. Okay. I will then commit to having one for the January meeting. And in the meantime, then I don't know if there's other events. I think Tricarico made us aware of an event this weekend, for example, that we could share about verbally tonight.
Yeah, Tricarico here. So there's a group putting together a Young Voices rally, and that will be on Sunday, which is the 6th, and it will be starting at 3 p.m., but you can pop in anytime. It'll be going until 6:30. And the idea behind this is various community groups are coming together and talking about what it is they do in the community and how folks wanting to get involved can join, support, etc. And Angelo will be talking about the HRC. So thank you so much, Angelo, for doing that. It'll be super exciting. So if you want to support Angelo and learn about some of the other organizations that are going on, there will also be some individual speakers who are currently involved in the community and activism in the various groups, kind of giving some inspiration. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. To see it, you'll want to head over to the Black Joy Oregon Facebook page, and I can share the link with Gretchen, but honestly, if you Google Black Joy Oregon Facebook, you'd probably find it pretty easily. That's headed up by Julianne. So that'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be interesting to see their approach to a virtual environment too, which might be kind of useful as we think about planning our own. So yeah, I'd love to see you all there, and let's definitely support Angelo and being brave and talking about the HRC on there. Thank you so much for doing that.
Angelo here. Yeah, please go ahead and not only support me, but support everybody that's speaking, because again, I think it's somebody that really, likes to do, youth outreach. I think it's important to do, and also, it can be nerve-wracking for people to speak for certain amount of time. So I think everybody that's involved really, please really show your support to them. Does anybody else have any other community calendar events? All right.
No,
Oh, good.
but this is Renee. I just wanted to say that when we have the community calendar from Gretchen, for me, it makes it feel like there's more going on. And since COVID and I basically never leave my house, it feels like there's really nothing going on. So it would be nice to have a list to say, actually, there's all these things going on, and here's how I can participate, even if it's only from home.
Angela here. Yeah, I agree. And now, Gretchen, now that most organizations know how to do events digitally, I think it's going to be easier for us to come up with events. So I think it's a good idea to bring back the community calendar.
Will do. Thank you for the feedback.
All right, we can close with member remarks and announcements if anybody wants to speak. I guess I'll go continue speaking. I just had a thought. It's probably that I didn't share earlier, but I think this is just my opinion right now. But I think I really want for us this upcoming year to really work with city council, because again, this is just probably my feeling, but I feel like right now we're disconnected from them. And our official title is we advise council, and I don't think we're advising council right now. I think we're doing our own separate thing, and they're doing their own thing. So I think we really need to connect and work with them. I think we can see examples like the Eugene Human Rights Commission. They've done really good things, and I really want us to continue doing that, because I think we really can do a lot of things, but sometimes we need to connect with other people, including the city council. So I think that's something to think about going forwards as well. Okay, and if nobody else has anything, go ahead, Krista.
Christy here. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Renee and Alex for all of the work that you've been doing. And I'm really going to miss you. And these meetings won't be the same without you, but I hope that we'll be able to see you around still.
Thank you, Krista. I'm just going to be an email or a phone call away. So we will stay connected.
Sounds great.
All right. If that's everything, I hope you have happy holidays if you celebrate, and a good new year. And I'll see you in January. And this meeting is